Good morning, and welcome to another edition of To The Point. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Those of you on the GBN Television Facebook page, those of you on the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, GBN channel 7, 11, and 20, and of course, Classic 105.5, 105.9. It is Tuesday, March 17th, 2020. In studio with me is the Assistant Public Relations Officer of the National Democratic Congress, Ron Redhead. Good morning, Mr. Redhead.
Morning, Blossom, and to you and your listeners. Hope everybody is keeping safe, certainly during this outbreak of COVID-19 globally and local.
Thank you. Hope you're doing the same.
Yes, we are taking precautions.
Social distancing.
Of course. And bouncing with the elbow.
Exactly. Making sure everybody stays safe.
Yes.
All right. So, as you said, COVID-19 is what is basically the issue on the front burner, back burner, side burner for everybody worldwide.
True.
From a political party standpoint, what is the NDC doing, or how can the NDC help in our continued fight against this virus and ensure that it doesn't get to Grenada shores?
Right. Well, we want to say that publicly we have joined with the local health authorities to ensure that we combat the problem of COVID-19 together. So far, we have met with officials from the Ministry of Health. We were at a meeting, represented at a meeting at the Trade Center Annex at least 2 weekends ago. And we were represented by our General Secretary and Ms. Maria Pascal, our Assistant General Secretary for the Southern Zone. And we have since forwarded suggestions. We have prepared printed materials in terms of measures that the general public should take. We have been speaking with our membership. Each constituency is hereby asked to implement a mitigation plan to ensure that you reduce on meetings, that you reduce on the large concentration of people all at once in one location, and to take preventative measures in relation to hygiene, that sort of thing, and follow official information. So far, we have been in contact with the CMO and the Minister of Health up until weekend to ensure that we are preparing towards a national plan to help fight COVID-19. You may also appreciate that we have put out releases on the matter. We have some concerns still with the relationship, in relation to the formulation of a plan, a national plan of action to ensure that all sectors are on board and are doing what is necessary to help curb the problem with COVID-19. So we are very much prepared to support any national initiative because this is a national issue and we must be treating it in that manner.
You mentioned at the meeting, you made some suggestions. Can you share with us what some of those suggestions are?
Right. I can share, but I would leave it up to the public relations officer and the party leader in particular. Reasons being, we are looking at some ways. What I can do is identify some of the gray areas and tell you what we have so far put forward, both on social media, in the public domain, and also put forward to the government.
Gray areas in terms of what needs to be done?
Yes, our current preparation and some gray areas that we have identified, and in terms of moving the process forward for the national effort to fight COVID.
Okay.
So in relation to information, we have made the appeal to health authorities to come out with official information in a timely manner and as much as possible, in the sense that we are seeing and we know that we are living in an age of misinformation and miscommunication. Now, you can't blame people for doing that. The panic, the hysteria is all over international media. What we have to do locally is, let us say, set a time, let us say every Mondays at 11 o'clock, put out bulletins on COVID-19. We must know the updates, what is going on, how many people have we tested as at this period, and what is our steps next. We must know, for example, the amount of test kits available and if efforts are being made to get additional test kits. In relation to Barbados, I have been listening to them very much, and they actually are going to be tailoring messages towards the 2 most vulnerable sectors, which is by way of disseminating the information. You would have the national platform, but you would be actually targeting the seniors and the very young children in terms of messaging, how they can practice proper hygiene, how they can practice the question of social distancing in their own language. So that is creative. I don't know if we may have the capacity to do it, but in relation to information, this is what is required. We have a bit of concerns with our national plan and effort to fight COVID-19 because we are still unaware as a people where we are at with that plan in terms of the stage. Are we at stage 1, stage 2, stage 3? This would help in a great way because it will allow business places to know how much they should kick in their own business protocol and preparation for COVID, what they should be doing by now, and what the information is telling us. Again, we want to look at it down the long term, because we don't know if COVID would be with us for 3, 6, or 12 months. We don't know. And the question of water, because it will play a key role in sanitation. The hurricane season is coming up. I know it is said that it could be slightly above active. We have to be mindful of that as a region and should be planning in accordance to that. Are we going to be fighting COVID and the possibilities of extreme hurricanes? We're already going through a drought. How are we going to manage? So these are some of the questions that we have been seeing. Again, the question of the quarantine area, that has been highlighted throughout the country, and a lot of people are still concerned as to where it is. We say publicly we do not believe it should be at the general hospital.
There are different quarantine stations around the island, though.
Right. We have been getting that information, but part of the problem, in most countries, let's just take China, for example. Now, we cannot achieve what China has achieved, and that was an excellent achievement. It will go down in the history books, to build a hospital in 7 days. Yeah? But the point is, you must have a central point where you are coordinating that. I understand the importance of having it throughout, because transportation is a critical part of our national effort. You know the roads, you know how difficult it is to maneuver some of them, and if you have to transport patients, you have to deal with that. The Western Main Road, for example, is coming to mind in relation to that. So I understand the need for different points, but let us say the thing outbreaks so bad, and you must always, when you're in crisis mode, you must always look to the worst case scenario and plan from there. If it does not reach, at least you had preparation. Prevention is always better than a cure. So let us say, for example, it gets widespread, and we have to now fill up some of these small pockets or areas of quarantine. That will be a problem and may only add to further spreading it. Is it in proximity with residential places, business places, that kind of thing? But I don't think the nation needs to know exactly where the points are, just that we have a main or a central point where we can feel comforted. It's exclusively dealing with COVID-19 cases.
One of the great areas you pointed out was possibly the need for bulletins at a specific time.
Yes.
Is it that you, or is it that the party thinks that not enough information is coming from the health authorities?
It is not enough information. I think the coordination, or maybe the manner in which the information is coming out. So, for example, in the last 24 hours, I have, or let's say 48 hours, I have seen releases trying to respond to something about a flight and so on. That should not be the priority right now. Right now, what we need to be telling people in the releases are what are our efforts as at 12 o'clock today. What are we doing so far? The update in relation to, are we having new kits? The update in relation to what measures are we taking to restrict travel? That sort of thing. That is really what we want to hear as a nation and should be focused on. We should ease up with trying to respond to misinformation right away. In time, you would do so. It's only expected. But right now, we need to focus on the information relating to COVID specifically and forget everything else. You don't give propaganda legs at a time like this. This is crisis. And we must, be focused and stay steady, as political leaders always tell us to do.
Planning ahead, you mentioned the hurricane season, which is in June, that's 3 months away.
Yeah, about 70-something days.
So, 70-something days. Don't you think, or do you think that it is possibly a bit too early to be planning for 3 months from now?
No, because as I said, we don't know how long COVID will be around. I think the important thing is that we must put all systems in place, or at least we must have an idea how we would treat with it. We don't want to get caught off guard. The need to do long-term planning is essential, because when we speak a little about the economy, which is where we are very concerned, the impact of the economy and the region by COVID, I think you're going to see the need to do a lot of long-term planning. Things have to change in terms of how we develop the economy, the two-pillar structure, for example. That cannot suffice in terms of sustainable development. It's too vulnerable, tourism and construction. So the need to diversify the economy. So in relation to water and planning ahead, we know we have the dry season woes. We can mitigate against that for now, but if it will come down to where water would be disrupted because of the passage of some system and that kind of thing, sanitation then becomes a concern. So it's about long-term planning and not necessarily creating hysteria or being an alarmist, but you must always be cautious when you are in crisis.
Does the party feel any way about Spice Mass 2020, which was launched, I think, was last week? Or
yes, it has an important... it can affect the culture. A lot of people, and I know, for example, the guys in PAN, they have invested some resources and so on, and to be told, that we may have to cancel it, it will hurt their pockets. Again, the economic side to COVID-19 is what we are very much concerned about. So we know it's going to affect Spice Mass is an important time during the country, not only for the culture, but the economic side of the country. And we are very much concerned as the impact it will have on ordinary people in the sector.
Before we get into the economic, I guess it could kind of lead into that. In terms of, I remember a few weeks ago, the NDC called for the closing of our borders to fight COVID. Do you still stand by that call? A number of countries in the region have done so, but places like Barbados says it will be detrimental to their economy. What does the NDC still do? Do you still feel that way?
Well, it's not just about closing the borders. I think it has to be at a particular stage of the outbreak. If it is like Trinidad, for example, they have shut down for 14 days because they have increasing cases and they need to stop the flow of travelers coming in because most of the cases, if not all, are imported cases. So the need to restrict travel on the level or basis that you are, while you're doing surveillance and all these other things, as we see, that is a bit, it has its own loopholes. People can be asymptomatic according to the medical experts and may not show signs and symptoms. So then how do you treat with that? Are you saying that we should ignore that and in that case leave it because they will still be actively transmitting the virus? So that again is discretionary. Let me put it this way, that we know we cannot stop the flow of goods. Right? It's important that we focus on that. But this is why it's even more important to form a coalition, form a group, form a national plan, including the private sector. They will be best informed as to what can be restricted on their end and what the government then will have the responsibility to decide what is necessary to be restricted from the information they are getting from the health experts and from the aviation experts, etc. We must know, for example, how many countries have cases of COVID-19. I think the last total was 155. So we have to know what the situation is like and apply restrictions accordingly. Panama, for example, the flight which came over the weekend period, I can't recall if it was Sunday. Panama, for example, has 69 confirmed cases of COVID-19, right? Should we be alarmed? I don't know. But we should be taking every precaution. People should be monitoring that at a national level to ensure that they are on top of the situation when it gets out of hand in one country so they can apply the restrictions accordingly and not necessarily just across the board because we need the revenue and income.
The economic impact, just this week we spoke with a member of the tourism industry about what it would mean for the industry. Businesses are also going to feel the impact. Yeah. What does the NDC feel would be or how can we mitigate against?
At this point, it will be hard to say exactly how you would mitigate, but what you can determine is what would happen as a result of this present situation. The workers in the tourism sector will be the first to feel the impact. The daily paid workers, the people who are earning income by the day and by the hour, that sort of thing, they will feel the impact first and dealing with the tourists directly. The general tourism sector, because you would have hotels now having less occupancy during this period, that will have an impact on business. So we should really be discussing how do we treat with that. Unemployment benefits or some benefit of the sort which should capture outbreaks like these, that should be something on the table, and the opposition stands ready to offer suggestions, whether it is at the level of parliament or at a national level, to help secure workers in the tourism sector.
The taxi operators as well have also expressed concern with the closure of the cruise ship season.
Again, what it would require, in my view, from an economic standpoint, all the people who would be affected in this period, particularly in the tourism sector, because it can also affect the health sector and the general economy, because you would see a reduction in economic activity, which can impact revenue collections, that sort of thing. What it would require is the coming together. So the labor representatives certainly will play a critical role, if not the most important role, to ensure that the workers are secured during the outbreak of COVID-19. It is necessary that they are part and parcel of any national plan to ensure that their constituency of workers, they would be protected under this current situation.
On that note, let's take a break and come back inside. I know people are eager to call. I see the phones ringing already. This is To The Point on Classic and the GBN. We'll be right back.
Feel good facts.
Avoid the most common causes of spreading the flu. Cover your coughs and sneezes with a tissue, dispose of it straight away, and either wash your hands or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
Sneezes spread diseases, so cover coughs and sneezes, please. Not with a rag or bandana. They trap germs. When you use the rag again, you put germs on your hands and everything else you touch. When you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth and nose with tissue. Throw the tissue in a bin and wash your hands afterwards. If you don't have a tissue, cough into your sleeve or elbow. Alcohol-based hand sanitizers are also effective in cleaning hands.
Stop the spread of germs that can make you and others sick. Cover your nose and mouth with a tissue when you cough or sneeze. If you don't have a tissue, use your elbow. Wash hands often, especially after coughing or sneezing into a tissue.
Welcome back to The Point. We are speaking with Assistant Public Relations Officer of the National Democratic Congress, Ron Redhead. And as can be expected, the focus this morning is COVID-19. Before we go to the phone lines, just wanted to, how should I put it? There has been, not just recently, but a lot of false information circulating, especially as it relates to the virus. Yeah. What kind of warning or what kind of message can you send to people as it relates to the kind of information that they get and share?
Well, I just want people to be very careful. You look, once you see a website with a set of access.gov.com, you know these things are false information. So long as it's not coming from an official site, I want to say that what should happen is you must listen to your local authorities, health officials, and you must follow CDC, WHO, that type of pan-American, that type of grouping in terms of official information. Do not get carried away with hysteria. Most of the experts have said that the biggest problem they have seen thus far in this initial stage is misinformation. Right? 1 minute you're hearing, well, oh God, COVID transmitted by the air. Next minute you're hearing that is not true, but it damaging all organs in your body. Next minute you're hearing those who had it, they getting reinfected with it, and it's a set of hysteria and panic and so on is creating. Take it easy. As party leader said to us, she do not want to promote panic. During this period, a crisis, national, international, panic is the last thing we should do, because it will cause more problems. It will cause the people who need the checking up on and so on the most to not get it, because people might just be fear to go about. So far, the health experts are saying that you have 80% of the cases people have recovered. So, which means the probability exists that 20% of the cases transition into the extreme ones, and certainly is primarily because of people with underlying conditions. Nutrition can help to play a part, and hygiene. Let us stop spreading misinformation, and let us stop falsifying things and creating and adding to the hysteria. Let us focus on our country and to protect it from that virus. That's what we have to do.
Well said. On that note, let's open the phone lines. 435-2041 is the number to call. Please be mindful that we are not the experts. We are not representing the Ministry of Health. I see a question, for example, on the WhatsApp that we may not be able to address. We may have an idea, but we may not be able to address, so please be mindful of that. 435-2041 is the number to call. You can also WhatsApp that same number with your questions, queries, concerns, or comments. Do not voice or video call the WhatsApp or send voice notes. We can only take written messages on the platform. You can also post your questions on the GBN Television Facebook page or the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel. Let's go to the phone lines. Good morning.
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 To you and your guests. It's very interesting that I've continued to hearing that political parties in this country are not relating to such a crisis issue from a partisan perspective. So let me now give the NDC a good kudos and congratulations for that kind of attitude. The whole issue still have not been addressed properly to my mind, to the extent where the hysteria and the paranoia aspect of it has not been mitigated. Now, I'm not saying that political party could do anything to make sure that people's mentality relative to how they deal with their health can be mitigated from that perspective. But what I'm saying more than anything else is that you have people still believing a whole set of false rumors. You have people still with attitude of not taking care of themselves. And it's difficult to say that it's an attitude. And I say difficult because how people will understand that you need to take care of yourself every day beside of whatever. When you live with anger, when you live with spite, when you live with hate, when you live with a mentality that is confusing one towards each other, you know, it destroys your system. And you say you're not the expert, you are not the expert, but that's a pertinent aspect of it. You know? People with attitude problem, a lot of the times it shows up based on the same political problem, where they hate one another. Now we have a crisis. We need to recognize that we need to relate to each other properly.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Point well taken, and again, it goes back to say that the political parties generally are not the experts, but what we have done is that set up a small group for now. It is not public because, you know, it's an internal operation of the party. We have people who have experience, medical experience, people who have experience in terms of disaster management, people who have experience in terms of these types of situations. They are part of a group now and ensuring that they advise the party accordingly on the matter, and they look at all the parameters. So the political organization has a responsibility to look at all aspects of it. As I said, the health implications it will have for the country and its health sector, the implications it will have for the tourism sector and particularly the services sector. As we know, SGU took the preemptive action to send most of their international students back to their countries for safety, and we can only imagine that is important on their side, but it will also impact our economy for the services that we provide to them.
True. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Ms. Blossom, and good morning to your guest. Very sorry situation. I want to compliment your last caller. You see, the program should be extended in this time now. It's too short because sometimes you have to give people a chance to build up what they have to say. You see, what is happening here, we're panicking now. We have a dire situation. But I don't know how we tie in this with our management over the years in terms of the state of the economy, because the economy had not been growing, it had not been widening to give people an opportunity to take care of the health. And that's what the problem is. We're asking people to take care of the health now when they do not have the capability, you know. But let me leave that there. There is a question I raised with the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Works, Ministry of Education as it relates to Wi-Fi that is now have to be used in the future. I discussed that with everybody months ago, years ago, the possibility of putting Wi-Fi in every home because we have to interact. Now we have to do those things. How do people interact when they does not have the system in the house? I leave that there for now.
Thank you, caller.
Yeah, very important points. Just to take the caller up on the first point. The issue of the access to healthcare, as we know, that is a global debate as well in many developed countries. The problem, and I suppose it only takes situations like these for us to determine, well, we need to move in that direction. The problem, I believe, clearly in the interim is the political will to take countries in the direction they ought to go, as opposed to trying to meet election promises and these types of things. Now, the NDC is very committed to ensure that we have a robust health system in the country. We need it. It must address the issue of access, but more so, it must address the issue of the sector itself and its development. The question of nurses. Remember, I was on the program some time ago, if not this year, but at least last year, speaking to how our nurses are treated. It is wrong with how we have dealt with that. Now is not the time to cry about it, but it shows that some of the problems that we created in the past is now showing up as gray areas that might actually affect our ability to deal with it. I have a big concern outside of the party is the question of our capacity to deal with it. And on that note, I just received a message this morning while I was getting here that the People's Republic of China have assisted in donating some much needed materials, and yes, we want to thank them from the bottom of our hearts. We cannot afford some of the things right now, and they are actually placing resources to help us fight COVID, and we are grateful for that. But it still does not underscore some of the own mistakes that we have been making over the years. It is not helping. Again, the question that he raised with the economic management, serious problem. As I said, the country needs to diversify, and all the countries in the Caribbean region, in my view, needs to diversify. Look at Cuba, for example. Cuba has an embargo, but look at the wonders and the internationalism Cuba is now showcasing to the world in terms of developing not a vaccine so much, but some serum of some sort to help deal with the issue of COVID-19. This, in my view, is critical. I have a view that Cuba should be our regional head in health, and with the Caribbean and Latin America. And this has nothing to do with ideology and about lift the embargo and so on. What we need to do is start placing Cuba in positions where they can lead, and the world will follow suit. But that is a different discussion. But the caller is very correct with his assessment.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Good morning.
Good morning, Blossom, and to Senator Ron Redhill, to the executive of the NDC, and to all of Grenada and the diaspora who listen to this program. Blossom and our guests, while it's important to sanitize and sterilize, I believe it's also important for us to boost up our immune system. Some of us are running to the pharmacies to get vitamin C and various other vitamins, but look in our own backyard. We have so much of the local colored foods. Right now we have the pumpkin in season, you have eggplants, and it's a good time for food and nutrition to probably show us simple ways in which we can prepare some of these dishes because of the fact that some of us are running to the fast food. We really don't know how to prepare them, and that makes us kind of eliminate it from our plates. We can also utilize our older folks who know how to do it to come in the kitchen and assist, interact with the young people that are home, because this is what we grew up on. In time like now where we talk about Lent and we don't use meat, we use eggplant, we use pumpkin, we use peas, and I think this is a good opportunity for the farmers to produce and supply the market. West Indian cherry is one of the richest sources of vitamin C. It's coming in season now. Let us make use of it and use all the local juices we can. Once again, let us do what we do. And it is my observation that people are walking wrong with disposable gloves in their hand. And I believe it is a bad practice. Because if you use it on your job, for example, and you should get rid of it. If you use it in a contaminated area and you go about using it, around people, you just might be spreading the virus if it is not here. So let us, be conscious. Yes, we want to protect ourselves, but we have an obligation to protect each other. I do believe, too, that somehow, as long as we are aware, we should encourage our people to help the older folks and, sing and, chat with them just to make them lively, to beat the fear that is going around. Have a nice day. God bless you.
Thank you, Caller.
Thank you very much, Caller. Caller is absolutely correct. I don't need to add any more to what she has said.
Yeah, I agree with her about the proper use of the gloves.
Yes.
I see people using it and it's still touching, and
Precisely.
might as well just take off the glove. Back to the phone lines. Good morning.
Good morning once again. Congratulations to your two callers that I've heard so far. Relative to the whole issue of health and immune building system, I've advocated a study that I believe make a lot of sense of calcium-rich solution. Virus does not function inside of it. If your system is rich with calcium, at the same time, vitamins has been a very well recommended solution to taking care of yourself. And the local foods that we talk about, eat what you grow what you eat, is a big consideration at the same time. You put all these tools together, and you would have a healthy body that can be very resistant to viruses. Let me say something to y'all. A few months ago, there was a bad cold that passed. I usually don't catch cold and so on, but there was a bad cold passing around. When I heard, I thought I was the only person who got what was passing around. When I heard somebody said to me that a few people in this country die of that, because the thing was so bad. After a person said that to me, I heard other people talk and say how bad they were affected by the cold. Joints, headache, whatever happened. I got the cold. That same cold I was passing around at the time, I recognized it was the same thing I got. The only problem I had, I cough a lot and hack up some ugly-looking substance from my chest, as you'll say. I never felt sick for 1 second. My joints didn't hurt me, my head didn't hurt me, I didn't have no fever, nothing. I'm a person who would take calcium as a normal procedure of my life. Where I have it on my tongue, if a sore throat was to appear, or trying to appear, as you might say, I'll suck the tablets, let it filter down to my throat in a simple, slow way. I don't swallow it straightforward. And all that is gone. And I could tell people, I guarantee, that calcium works very well for virus.
All right. Thank you so much, caller. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm not the expert, Blossom, and so I wouldn't venture, but I would say thank you for sharing your experience. And I know that the health experts say that everyone may have different levels and, in terms of the symptoms of the virus, and cold and influenza in general, that would always differentiate between people.
But that's a comment I've heard as well, that the virus was here, like in January. People dying of pneumonia and so on. Do you agree?
I think what it will require is more testing kits to test our local people. I am a bit concerned as a citizen, I'm taking off my political hat right now, as to whether or not any of our taxi operators, any of our bars in and around town were ever exposed to it, because remember, the ban of the cruise ships only kicked in at least in the last 24-48 hours here in Grenada. So the possibility could exist, but we must not go on that, because that will only add to the hysteria. But I think we must ensure that we are testing locals and ensuring that we are making the connections as to where visitors were the most, and trying to test the people who were in and around them.
There is a question on the Facebook that asks, right. During the Prime Minister's address, he called for all hands on deck, which means no NNP or NDC. We all Grenadians handling this issue together. The question is, do you think the government is doing enough in getting the NDC leadership involved in the crisis?
Well, we have made the open let me say this. Both have stretched out the arms of the olive branch, right? And we have accepted, and we are prepared to work with government to ensure, because this is a national crisis. This, as the person is saying, has nothing to do with party right now. This is a national crisis. So we have accepted, and we ourselves have made overtures to the government in terms of giving suggestions, concrete suggestions, not pie in the sky things, and giving assistance wherever it may be required. So we want to say publicly again that we are open to ensuring that we continue to work together in the interest of this combating the threat.
Good morning. Do you think that we Grenadians are fully informed by the administration about the virus? If not, what would the NDC do different if they were the party of the day?
Right. What we would do certainly different is to have regular bulletins. We cannot underscore the importance of that. You cannot be in a crisis and once every 3 weeks you're hearing some official statement and so on. That is not good. It will only open the floodgates for more misinformation and propaganda to flood the country, and we don't need that kind of thing. So again, we want to stress to government and the health authorities to have regular health bulletins on COVID-19.
Okay, let's go back to the phone lines. Good morning.
Good morning, my sister Blossom. How you do?
Good morning, Ms. Jacob. I'm fine.
Yes, and good morning to my brother. What is his name?
Morning, Ms. Jacob.
Oh,
Senator Redhead.
Yes, Senator Redhead. Let me tell you something, Senator Redhead. This kind of diseases are going around. It can be worse than when I was growing up. No. We just have to eat properly. And you know what? I could tell you what I don't get fruits because fruits are draining. I drink my lemon, and you put a little bit of honey in it. The lemon better than the lime. And I using my saffron powder and my ginger. And I go outside and I get me, the bush they call the Christmas bush, the sissy bush. You drink a lot of that and you eat I can get fruits and things, but I just eat me little fig, me little blogo. And when you see Lenten season now, you get some nice sulfur sauce with some coconut oil. And what I does do this kind of cold, they say that the raining day. I didn't get it. You know what I does rub with? Let me tell you, I make my own remedy. You see the coconut oil, you grate the coconut and get your rosemary I put a rosemary in it. I have the nutmeg. I get 8 nutmeg mace. I get the thing that those strangers put on the clothes. Get that, and I buy a bottle of the nutmeg oil, and then I get something in my sleep night before. What they bring me in my sleep, they bring the, I call it again, boy, I just forget it, thing now. The spice and the clove. Put some spice and clove in it, and I rub it down with that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jacob. Thank you. We would try that remedy. Somebody on WhatsApp also has a remedy for lemon, gospel, big time, and black sage, and good sunshine.
Okay.
So everybody has their remedy. A comment on the Facebook asks, they suggest to be considerate when purchasing items. It's understandable that many are taking measures to ensure their families are provided for, but let's remember the less fortunate among us. Mm-hmm. Panic purchasing.
You see, let me tell you, what this says is that the people understand what should be done. And this is why it's ever more important to ensure that we formulate a national plan or such to have everybody, different sectors of the population, incorporated. I have no doubt that we will overcome this, no matter how long it will take, whether 3, 6, 12 months. But I think what really has to happen now is everybody must be on the same page. We must know that we are at stage 1. The possibility exists that we could be having cases in X, area Y. This is what we need to do. This is how the ministry will handle it. This is what we are saying. This is our capacity in terms of staff, frontline workers. This is our capacity in terms of equipment, the testing kits, the thermometers, that sort of thing. That is the kind of plan the country needs to hear right now in order to move forward. And to the person who asked the question, how would NDC handle this situation? We cannot foretell the future, and we could have not suggest what could have happened, but we do know that in the area of healthcare, we have Grenadians, both living here and abroad, that we would have been tapping into to ensure the protection and safety of our people locally in any kind of outbreak. We did it when the influenza H1N1 occurred, and when there was the outbreak of tuberculosis in the prison. During our tenure and today, these things did not infect our people in any kind of way, and that spoke to the co-opting of the expertise of various people in the health sector, and that is the type of thing we would have done. We don't really want to see color when there are national issues to be sorted out, especially in the protection of our people, health and safety.
A question on the WhatsApp. The Sanitary Authority was a mandate of the 1973 Public Health Act. Shall be chaired by so on and so forth, made up of so on and so forth. The question is, why do we need another national body to deal with, I guess, specifically this health issue?
No, well, it's a separate issue. Certainly existing laws that would have been in place, you have to look at all options. But as it stands now, you need a sort of, it's a novel virus, so it's new. Not like any information exists on it. It's not a case where you could have dealt with Ebola a bit easier, even though it was more severe than the coronavirus. So you need to form and co-opt a team. There are different aspects of the situation that will now be required. The services sector, the tourism sector, the business sector. So you have to say to yourself that while, yes, that may have existed, and I don't know too much about that because I think we have serious sanitation problems in the country. But I don't know how effective that has been and whether or not it has been getting any resource to function. I don't know. I can't comment on that.
Back to the phone lines. Good morning.
Good morning again, Blossom. Brother Ron, amidst the preparation for the virus, thank God it's not here yet. The nation's business have to go on. Could you please tell us something as to the relocation of the registry? We heard of the closure. I mean, people have to do all of the searches and business have to continue. I'm not aware. Could you please tell us of the relocation of that office, please? Thank you.
Unfortunately, caller, I cannot. But what I would say is that I heard of it. Now, in relation to this ICT, it will play a critical role. If some of the services could be provided online, I suggest that government explore all options to get that up and running as soon as possible to try to continue to flow with ease. I know the banking sector, they put out a statement really asking people to withdraw as much as possible from coming in to do transactions and utilize their digital platforms to do most of their businesses. So I think we should get to that point. It is a concern because, as you know, people were up until February. We have to change cards, that sort of thing. So I don't know how much that will be affected, but certainly it will affect a lot of the situation with the cards and so on. So in Trinidad and Tobago, I saw Prime Minister Keith Rowley asking the banking sector to be understanding during this period and relax some of the fees and some of its red tapes to help facilitate the process during COVID-19.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning. As much as we are thinking, and we're supposed to be thinking of putting these necessary health measures in place to take heed to, our main solution is knowing that Christ is the answer in the world today. There is no other answer. And no one could stop these things. He alone can stop it and say, this is the time for it to end. So what mankind need to do is to get their soul in perspective where Christ is concerned. We don't know what the future holds, what tomorrow might bring. Jesus alone knows. So that is the very most important thing. Get your soul in perspective in Jesus Christ. Soul salvation. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Yes, points.
There's a question on the Facebook. What, where, and how many quarantine areas have we prepared?
Again, I don't know. I'm not the expert, so I won't comment on that.
What I could say is that the health authorities have not revealed where they are located, but there are a few around the island. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to your guests and to the listening and viewing audience, I suppose. Let me preface my contribution by reading a quote I've sent out a few days ago. It says, even if you are not at high risk, yourself, your obligation to prevent the continuation of this thing is very crucial. So we all have a responsibility, individually and collectively. Unfortunately, some of the things that are being done now should have been done a month or more ago. Or even once we heard what was happening in China, we should have got into gear, even if we weren't doing anything before that. But so it be. I think more than anything else, I wonder if there's any attempt to coordinate or to manage the various media houses in Grenada in terms of the dissemination of information. That is something I wonder, because the various stations could be given different conflicting information. Apart from that, in terms of giving people assurance that this thing, while it's very serious and dangerous, can be dealt with effectively if we really just remain calm. And it was unfortunate over the last couple of weeks that people were rushing into spaces, endangering each other, to get things, to gather up things. It shows how, in a way, it displays a form of selfishness on our part. Like if we survive, it doesn't matter if other people survive. But in short, I would say that it also brings into question the policies that we've been pursuing, the policies of growth, the policies of consumerism, the policies of, more and more concrete rather than other more sustainable things. So if after this we have not come to our senses, God forbid, if something else happens, because all it takes is something like that and our tourism industry collapse.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to agree with what Mr. Antoine is saying. I think I'll make out the voice correctly. But you see, that is why the question of diversifying the economy is so important, because tourism and construction is too vulnerable. For example, the tourism sector, in my view, looking at this, we need a contingency plan be put in place, whether it is by finances or even investing in alternative businesses, which, yes, directly relates to the tourism sector, but is not reliant too much on external factors. So, for example, maybe the hoteliers and the tourism stakeholders need to come together to purchase an airline for Grenada to ensure we have steady flights and occupancy, a small one. It could be interregional, however you want to put it. But the need to invest in alternative means to ensure that we diversify the tourism sector and the entire Grenadian sector. The development model cannot be the two pillar. It is not sustainable and it is too vulnerable to external forces.
We have been hearing about somebody from St. Lucia who came from England and spent a week in Grenada in one of the hotels and was tested positive in St. Lucia. Is there any truth to that story, and what are the necessary steps taken to the people who came in contact with that visitor?
Right. We have not received an update as yet in relation to it, but it is true, it did occur. I did cross-reference with media people and some other people, and then it came to pass. Now, that is an area that we see and identify as a loophole. How do we treat with it? I cannot answer that. The experts must say what are the mitigation methods that will be incorporated and utilized to help treat with it. Again, you have to do contract tracing. You need to know where the person was, who she would have dealt with, etc., and so on. That's part of it has seemingly been done, but the other part to it is to say, who are the other people that may be additionally quarantined, and do we have enough kits to test and to do the necessary measures to prevent it from spreading.
According to the officials, both here and in St. Lucia, she did not show signs of the virus until she got to St. Lucia, which is where the virus is spread through sneezing and coughing. She reportedly only developed that in St. Lucia. However, local authorities are doing contact tracing to find the people who may have come in contact with her at the hotel that she stayed at, as well as maybe in the vicinity or so on and so forth. So they have started to find these people and maybe test if necessary, but so far they have not given us an update as to if there was need to quarantine or so on and so forth. With 2 more minutes, I think I would stop taking phone calls here. Let me double check the social media to make sure there are no other further questions. Yes, that'll be it.
Right.
So, Senator Redhead, as we wrap up this morning, any final words that you can share with us?
Well, I just want to say, don't panic. Let us ease the hysteria and let's focus. Let us all remain committed to the national efforts to ensure we protect our country from the threat of COVID-19.
Agreed. Well said in short terms.
Give me an
elbow bunks. Thank you very much, Senator Ron Redhead, Assistant Public Relations Officer of the NDC, for passing through on the program this morning. That's the end of the program this morning. We are getting ready. I'm cutting it up maybe about 1 minute or so short. Brenda is up next with Mid-Morning Buzz, but inside of that, we are aiming to link up with the Government Information Service for this morning's post-cabinet briefing, which is scheduled to begin at 10 a.m. from the Ministerial Complex. We will carry it live on Classic, just so that our listeners can be updated with the information coming straight from government this morning during post-cabinet briefing. So at 10 a.m. or maybe they may start on time, maybe not, but we would link up for post-cabinet briefing. Just a reminder of the virtual discussion to take place on Thursday, God willing, as it relates to COVID-19. You can like and pay attention to the Ministry of Health's Facebook page for that, which begins 7 p.m. on Thursday. And on that note, that's the end of my time today. Have a safe, enjoyable, COVID-free Tuesday. Have a good one, everybody.
I want you to promise me that no matter what happens to you, to me, to anyone around you, that you wouldn't put trust in your